So what got me interested in environmental issues was just as a child, I was fascinated by nature, spent a lot of time in the garden. Had a really lovely garden growing up, spent a lot of time there playing, seeing what was going on with the birds and the trees, and then did a degree in geography, which looked at both human geography and physical geography, and that kind of sparked my enthusiasm and carried on ever since.
I've always been an environmentalist, but I really got into understanding climate change and climatic variability whilst working in Mozambique with local communities to understand how climate change impacted on their livelihoods and day-to-day lives, and then later in Tanzania.
I'm reminded of an incident when I was very young. I nipped a leaf from a plant in our garden, and my father, who was watching me, said, "Did you know that plant can feel the pain when you nip that leaf out of it?" And he went on to say that we should look after plants and nature as they are our key to survival. This message was deeply embedded in me, and probably this message from my father has been quite instrumental in me choosing my career in environmental research.
So I've always been interested in the environment and kind of environmental issues since I was a child. But when I was at the University of York, dare I say in 1999, I did a module in the politics department around sort of environmental policy. And I think that really kind of got me interested in these topics. I then moved into social policy. I was taught again by some really inspirational people, and then moved on to do a PhD. And I think probably the most inspirational moment, sort of in my early 20s, was I went to a conference on environmental justice. And there was a professor there called Robert Bullard, and he was talking about environmental justice, racism, and all those kind of issues. And it got me really kind of intrigued and really passionate.
I was initially interested in wildlife conservation, but I soon realised that human interactions with nature are a vital part of the solution. It is difficult to do one without the other. Climate change affects both humans and wildlife, and it is an integral part of everything that we do.
I first became interested in climate change when I saw lots of people arguing on the internet about the quality of data with respect to historical temperature change. And a lot of my career has been concerned with data quality, so I was naturally interested. Of course, what I found was that most of the people who were arguing aren't actually very interested in the data. Rather, they're interested in the threat that what the data is showing poses to aspects of their worldview. So in understanding that pushed me away from data science to understand a little bit more about sociology and psychology.
What got me interested in climate change was during my PhD research, I noticed the struggle for survival faced by many farmers trying to deal with climate change impacts. And what really drove me deeper into this area was the use of indigenous and traditional knowledge by farmers to adapt to climate change impacts. And this was an awe-inspiring and interesting area, I would say, which actually drew me into climate change research.
So I became interested in environmental research and then climate change some years back when I was much younger. I had the chance to travel in Latin America on different occasions, in Mexico, and I started to hear about some of the environmental challenges faced. And I spent a semester when I was an undergrad student in Bolivia, in the city of Cochabamba, which is in the mountains. And you could see that the snow in the mountains from photos was kind of greatly diminished. So people started to talk about how the snow was melting, and there were pressures around water. And this was before people were really talking about climate change in North America, in the US, where I'm from. And then I had the chance to be back in Bolivia. And actually, really the first time I heard about climate change as an academic kind of subject was spoken in Spanish in Bolivia. I had done a master's degree in urban planning, but when I was doing some research in Bolivia, people were talking about cambio climático, climate change. And so it was really that kind of sparked my interest in it as a kind of a global issue.
I actually came to climate change and environmental research through campaigning and activism. It's something I've cared about for a long time and that I've acted on in other areas of my life, and I've then brought that to my teaching and my research.